Good evening. It is Wednesday, April 5th, 2017. It is straight up 7 o'clock, and we are going to begin our regular City Commission meeting for the City of Ottawa. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. Mayor Kaler?
Present.
Commissioner Reed?
Present.
Commissioner Graves?
Present.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Present.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Present.
It's always fun when we have lots of people in the audience. I always appreciate when we have individuals here. Please know that we meet the first Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock and the third Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. That doesn't mean, kids, that you can get out of school at 9:30 in the morning to come to the meeting unless your teacher says you can. But we are always happy to have individuals here. Engaged citizens make our community great, so we're really happy that you are here today. We are going to begin our meeting with just a little something, just a little bit different. We always do the Pledge of Allegiance, but today we have a very special group of girls that from Girl Scouts. They're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And so they're going to come up, and I'm going to have them stand with me as mayor, and they are going to help lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we will follow that with the invocation by Pastor Ron Glavin, who actually, this is where the Girl Scouts meet, at Westminster Presbyterian. So come on up, girls. We want you to meet up here.
I don't know if they know where the stairs are.
Come on up. Stand right here. Now you turn towards the flag. Everybody turns towards the flag. Put your hand over your heart. Are you ready? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, girls. You may have a seat. Pastor Glavin.
Good job, girls. As a man of the cloth, I declare there's enough people present to take up an offering. Let us pray. Creator God, we thank you for the gift of spring, for the hope of warmer, longer, and brighter days. We thank you for the coming of new growth and new life all around us. We thank you for the many things that are coming awake in our world. We pray, O God, for the growth of Ottawa, for the birth of new possibilities, for the growth of hope and love. We thank you for the citizens of Ottawa and those who live near. We are grateful for our families, our friends, neighbors, and coworkers, and even the stranger among us. We thank you, O God, for the ability to use our minds to discern your will and to work to create a strong and healthy community. God, we are so blessed. We thank you for all who serve our community, for those who teach and those who protect, for those who clean and those who repair, for those who work in parks and those who work on our roads, for those who plan and those who make the plans happen, for those who heal and those who counsel, for those who govern, O God, and those who elect, for all who live into the best example of what it means to be a citizen. We thank you for our community of Ottawa. We also pray, O Lord, for all in our community who are hungry, unemployed, uninsured, those who struggle, O Lord. We pray for all in our community who are mentally or physically ill. We especially pray for all in our community who serve in our police department and our fire department. For these and all the needs of our larger community, Lord, hear our prayers. As this meeting begins this evening, we pray for each person here. We pray for our mayor, for our commission members, for our support staff. We pray that you will give every one of us here clarity of mind, creativity, compassion, due diligence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Oh God, give us all listening ears and thoughtful words. give us presence of mind and an open heart. And all of God's people said, Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Galvin. And thank you, girls. And those individuals, those girls are members of Troop 1465, and they are led by Andrea Hall, and we've got assistant leaders. I think Michelle Vink is here, and Tiffany Evans. So they all help keep those girls going. I'm sure it's a mighty task every time they meet. That moves us on to the consent agenda, which is items 6 through 8 in our agenda, including minutes from our special call, January 25th LKM Local Government Day, March 6, 2017, and March 20, 2017 study sessions, March 11 through 15 special call for National League of Cities Conference, and the special call for March 22nd regular meeting. It also includes a appointment to our airport board. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That moves us on to our regular agenda, which we always begin every meeting with an opportunity for the public to comment or to discuss anything that they have on their mind with the City Commission. Do we have individuals who have registered today?
No one has registered.
Okay. Are there individuals who would like to make public comment, since we have such a full group? Seeing none, we will proceed forward. At this point in our agenda, we take a declaration, and at this time I'd like to give our commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication that they may have had that would influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Commissioners? Seeing none, we will move forward. We're actually going to put a little a proclamation in there before we go forward with the one that is listed on your agenda. So the first proclamation for tonight is for Girl Scouts. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Girl Scouts is the largest, longest running, most effective leadership program for girls in the nation and in the world. And whereas this first meeting was held by Juliet Gordon Lowe in March 1912 after visiting the founders of both Boy Scouts and Girl Guides in England. And whereas since the first meeting, more than 50 million Girl Scouts have participated in the movement during their childhood, that number continues to grow as Girl Scouts of the United States continues to inspire, challenge, and empower girls everywhere. And whereas there are over 21,000 girls and over 8,500 adult members in the Girl Scouts of Northeast Kansas and Northwest Missouri Council, and 3.2 million members in the United States. And whereas 69% of the current U.S. senators and 60% of the women in the House of Representatives, United States House of Representatives, were Girl Scouts as girls. And whereas an estimated 80% of women in business executives and business owners were once Girl Scouts. Whereas countless women educators, scientists, women in the media, and performing arts discovered their passions and talents as Girl Scouts. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim March 12th, which I know we're a little late on that, as the 104th anniversary of Girl Scouts and Girl Scouting Month for the month of March, which has just passed, in the City of Ottawa, Kansas, and urges all citizens in celebrating the Girl Scout programs and activities in our community. Signed this the 5th day of April 2017 by your mayor and a Girl Scout, Sarah Kaler. I have Girl Scouts who are actually in high school who are going to come up and accept this proclamation, and then they're going to talk a little bit to you about why Girl Scouts is so important. So come on up. We'll take a quick pic, and then you can, right here, just right here. And then we're going to look at John. Here, we'll just hold this, you and I.
6 miles. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, great. Now you have the mic, and you're welcome to say whatever you would like. That is yours to keep.
Thank you for the proclamation, and I think we'd like to say a little bit of what Girl Scouts means for us. So,
Girl Scouts is a little bit hard to explain what it means to us because it means so much. For instance, for me, Girl Scouts has become an extension of my own family. My troop has become my best friends throughout high school and hopefully forever.
Girl Scouts has given me the skills and resources necessary to become my own person.
Tell us your names, if you would please, before you leave.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kelly Ray Sparks.
Kelly.
I'm Emily Rayson.
Emily.
And I'm Brittany Crossan.
And Brittany. Great. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it. Next, that moves us on to our proclamation recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. And this proclamation is intended to raise awareness by those affected by child abuse and sexual trauma. Representatives from CASA and the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Care Center will accept the proclamation, which will be read by Commissioner Graves.
The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the City of Ottawa, Kansas prides itself on giving back to the community and contributing to the quality of life among our citizens, and whereas CASA of the 4th Judicial District and its volunteers represent the best interests of abused and neglected children who are involved in the juvenile courts, and whereas the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Care Center promotes a culture of consent and provides support to anyone affected by sexual trauma, and whereas there are individuals in Ottawa, Kansas who are affected by child abuse, neglect, and sexual trauma, and whereas through a national effort, members of the Ottawa community are encouraged to join together in the month of April to raise awareness for those affected by child abuse and sexual trauma, and whereas this effort and promoting awareness of child abuse and sexual trauma will give many in our community and around the country a chance for a safe and positive future. Now, therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas does hereby recognize April 2017 as Child Abuse and Sexual Assault Prevention and Awareness Month in the City of Ottawa and urges all citizens to join in a national effort to raise awareness and help prevent child abuse and sexual assault. Signed this 5th day of April 2017 by our Mayor, Sarah Kaler.
Do we have representatives from CASA or the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Center to accept the proclamation? Come on up. John's going to take our picture really quick. So come close because we're so far away. Put your hand on that one, just like, there you go. Awesome. You have the mic and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much for this proclamation. My name is Rachel Gadd-Nelson. I'm with the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Care Center. We have Liz, our Franklin County advocate, and we have Jennifer Woolsey from CASA, the 4th Judicial District. And we have other CASA volunteers here as well. This was kind of a group effort. This was something that we both were going about separately and realized that because of our partnerships together, it made sense to do a joint proclamation to understand the ways that our issues connect, as well as to kind of show the, obviously proclamations are also about stating intentions and stating that this is a priority to raise awareness for our community. One of the ways that we're doing that in April, we are hosting a picnic in the park, which everyone here is welcome to attend. It's going to be on Saturday, April 15th from 11 to 3 at City Park. It's a collaborative event. The Care Center and CASA have been involved. We have also had KVC, the Willow Domestic Violence Center, and Bikers Against Child Abuse, who are all going to be, who have been working really hard to make this event possible. It will be a family-friendly event in the park with activities, music, food, and refreshments, and we're hoping it'll be an opportunity to learn about different services in the community, bring the community together, and also just have a lot of fun. So,
good. All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Flyers.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, please. Yes. Never easy when you want it to, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, that moves us on to item 12 on the agenda.
Proclamation recognizing March 2017 as March for Meals Month.
April is National Fair Housing Month. Richard Jackson, Chief Executive Officer of East Central Kansas Economic Opportunity Corporation, which I'm so used to saying ECAN. It's hard for me to even say that whole thing, but certainly important. Will accept the proclamation, which will be read by Commissioner Reed.
And the proclamation reads as follows. Celebrating 49 years of fair housing. Whereas the Congress of the United States passed the Civil Rights Act of 1968, of which Title 8 declared that the law of the land would now guarantee the rights of equal housing opportunity. And whereas the City of Ottawa is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas the City of Ottawa passed the Fair Housing Ordinance in 1976 and updated the ordinances in 1977 and 2000. And whereas the fair housing groups and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development have, over the years, received thousands of complaints of alleged illegal housing discrimination and have found too many that have proven upon investigation to be violations of the fair housing laws. And whereas equal housing opportunity is a condition of life in Ottawa that can and should be achieved. Now therefore, the governing body of the City of Ottawa, Kansas, does hereby proclaim the month of April 2017 as Fair Housing Month and expresses the hope that this year's observance will promote fair housing practices throughout the city. Signed this 5th day of April 2017 by our Mayor, Sarah Kaler.
Wonderful. Mr. Jackson, you want to come up? I have a feeling you've done this before. On both sides, right?
Yeah, both sides. That's right.
We want to hear from you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, and thank the City Manager as well. We talked about Fair Housing Month, 49 years, but this past Tuesday we remember that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, and he was the main driving force behind getting the Fair Housing Law enacted into law, which LBJ signed. We thought that it was important to recognize Fair Housing Month, but we needed to go a little bit further than that, and I think we talked about that for a number of years. So this year with ECAN and with the city here, we're going to co-sponsor a workshop on April 26th, which I believe is Wednesday from 6 to 9. Thereabouts, but we're gonna cover the Fair Housing Act, both on the state side and on the federal side, so people understand what you can do and what you can't do. And then we're also, along with that, we're going to do a Landlord-Tenant Act workshop as part of that, and that's for landlords, housing managers, and actually tenants.
Good.
So they have an understanding what that piece of legislation says. Now, if you're a landlord, you say it's slanted towards tenant. If you're a tenant, you say it's slanted towards the landlord. I think it's somewhere in the middle, but I think it's important that both sides understand what the rules and regulations are, what you can do and what you can't do. And a lot of people think that if you're a landlord, you can do this, you can padlock the door to get people out, and all of those things are illegal. So we're going to try and educate the general population. It's open to landlords and managers, and I hope that the commission here will attend. We need more disciples that understand what you can, so you can pass that on whenever you have questions. We'll be getting some information out, so work with the city. I had a poster. The Housing Credit Counseling out of Topeka will be doing the training, and they sent me a poster, but it's not correct. But I think we can probably do our own. I'll get together with the city manager and Wendy Lee, and again, thank you.
And that will be at City Hall?
It'll be here at City Hall.
Probably right here in this room.
Right here in
right?
this room.
Great. 26. Thank you so much. That moves us on to item 13 on the agenda.
Report on bid opening for general obligation bonds, Series 2017A and 2017B, and action on acceptance of the bids.
Bids Bids were received this morning by City's financial advisor and finance director for the sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2017A, for the purpose of financing $5 million of water, sewer, and electric infrastructure for Rock Creek Development Park, and Series 2017B for the purpose of providing long-term financing for the airport T-hangars located at Ottawa Municipal Auditorium. Those bids will be reported at this time, and after a motion to accept the lowest and best bid is in order. And Director of Finance Byrd, would you like to maybe even give it a little explanation for all of our citizens here in the audience?
Well, I just want to point out what this particular issue is about, or this particular item on your agenda is about, is to hear the results of the bid openings that were conducted this morning, which we're very pleased to present to you. I will tell you that it pays to work with professionals in the industry, and I think I can't say enough about our finance advisor and our bond counsel. They do a great job for us. But this first item is to identify the lowest and best bids on both of those, and the action for this particular item would be a motion and a vote to accept those lowest bids, and they both happen to be from the same bank, so it makes it kind of easy. So I'm going to get out of the way and let our finance advisor explain the process and the results.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, and good evening. David Arterberry with George K. Baum and Company. As has been mentioned, today the city opened up bids for the sale of $5 million of general obligation bonds to fund improvements to the new industrial park, and about $555,000 of taxable general obligation bonds to provide permanent financing for the T-hanger project. But before I go into that, I want to talk a little bit about what we've been up to since I met with the city last week. Last week after the meeting, a day or so later, we distributed to investors around the country the prospectus, or the preliminary official statement that described the two different bond issues. We also contacted Bloomberg and a publication called The Bond Buyer, and made sure that your sales got put onto their list of upcoming competitive sales that were being held this week. In addition to that, we called around to a lot of the routine bidders that we see who bid on municipal bonds in Kansas. So all that kind of led up to today when we met in the big conference room upstairs, and we all sat with the computer monitor on the internet bidding site where the bids are received. And at 11 o'clock, the deadline came and went, and we were real pleased with the amount of participation that we had. We had a total of 8 bids received for the larger $5 million issue, and 3 bids received for the smaller taxable bond issue. That 8 bids, we went back and looked. There's a history of the bids on sales that we've conducted in Kansas over the last year, and 8 bids is the most bids that we've seen any sale get in Kansas, so that was really nice. And we knew the smaller issue was not, just because of the size, wasn't going to get as much interest, but very pleased with the results. And as Scott mentioned, the best bid, in other words, the bid that offered the lowest overall interest cost on both series, was submitted by UMB Bank. I think you have copies of the bid tabulation sheets in front of you. And on the 2017A issue, the larger issue, they bid a true interest cost of 1.948913%, and on the smaller taxable issue, they bid a true interest cost of 2.915641%. I think we had guessed last week when I was here, we were thinking about 2.5% on the bigger issue. So needless to say, I was real pleased. The bids were mathematically reviewed. They're mathematically correct. They meet all of the other bidding parameters, and they've provided the appropriate good faith deposits that were required. So we see no reason that you wouldn't want to accept these bids. Actually, the smaller issue, originally we had anticipated that it would be, the principal amount would be $560,000. Because the way the best bid was structured, we were actually able to lower that to $555,000. Again, real pleased. I think, not only was this the most bids that we've seen recently, but the range of bids is also, if you look, the difference in both series between the high rate and the low rates, very narrow, which tells us the market liked the credit. It tells us there aren't a lot of other sales in the market, and people got real aggressive in submitting. So that's just generally kind of a summary. Obviously, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I know I'm excited about this. When at one time we was hoping to get somewhere close to 2, I never anticipated we'd get 2 bids below 2. So very pleased with that. So really appreciate your hard work on this, and it speaks to also of the city and the history of the city and keeping our bond rating so strong. So congratulations to you. You're a part of this as well. So good job, everybody, for a good team effort.
David, can you, for citizens who may just be learning about this for the very first time, they haven't, we've kind of been marinating in it for a while, and so, yeah, we all have had this conversation, but I said that the $5 million was for water, sewer, and electric infrastructure. So can we go out and buy a amusement park and put it?
No.
Okay.
No, you're legally restricted to use those bond proceeds for those 3 purposes you mentioned. Okay. Yeah.
I too am, I can't believe I'm saying this with the bankers at the table. I'm very excited about this. This is great news. I too didn't think we would get below 2, which is amazing. Very amazing. Other questions that you may have for Mr. Arterberry? Nope. Is there a motion to accept the lowest bid?
Madam Mayor?
Commissioner?
I would move that we accept the lowest bid on both of the sales that we just discussed, which would be to UMB Bank for both.
Do we need to have separate motions? No, can we do it in one motion? Okay. All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded by our non-bankers to approve the lowest and best bids on both the 2017 A GO bonds and the 2017 B GO bond. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Now that moves us on to item 14 on the agenda.
Request for approval of ordinance authorizing the issuance and delivery of $5 million of general obligation bonds.
This principal amount of Series 2017A General Obligation Bonds provides the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying for the principal of the interest of the bonds when they are becoming, as they are becoming due.
Yeah, and actually, as you'll recall, there is a sales tax that is in place to pay these bonds. However, if something would happen, we would be in a position to utilize property taxes if that need should arise. But that should not be the case, because the sales tax, we're already receiving that sales tax, and it's coming in as strong and actually stronger than what we predicted. So these next items 14 and 15 have to do with the 2017 A bonds that we've just been discussing.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Byrd?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move to approve the request as described in item 14 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Team.
There's been a motion and a second on the floor to approve the ordinance authorizing the issuance and delivery of $5 million of general obligation bonds. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Next, that moves us on to item 15 on the agenda.
Request for approval of resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $5 million of general obligation bonds.
The bonds are series, in case anybody's just joining us, 2017A, previously authorized by ordinance. Do we need explanation on this particular item?
It's just the next step
It's
to
just a
keep this
step.
moving along.
Madam Mayor.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution as described in item 15 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to request approval of resolution prescribing the form and details of authorizing the delivery of $5 million of GO bonds. Commissioners, is there any comment? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Now, we're on to item 16, but I'm not sure that we didn't already cover, can somebody if Wendy Lee, who's here for Blaine Finch, can...
We still have to do the ordinance and resolution, the first ordinance resolution, we're just for the A series, right?
No, you made the...
But that was just to approve the bids.
Okay.
Now we're doing the ordinance and resolution.
Would you like to make that motion?
I would make that
Okay.
motion. I've lost track of where we're at. For item 16, to move to approve that ordinance.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the ordinance authorizing the issuance and delivery of $560,000, which, do we need to make that modification? That's 555?
Yeah.
550?
555.
555? Okay, so I'm sure that's
Yes,
what you
that's
meant.
my
That's
motion, yes.
what your motion was, and that was your second, right?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Delivery of $555,000 of general obligation bonds. Is there any discussion among commissioners? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. On to item 17.
Request for approval of resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $560,000 of general obligation bonds.
Okay. We are going to, is there a motion to authorize the delivery of $555,000
Madam
of general
Mayor,
obligation?
I'll make that motion, that correction.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $555,000 of general obligation bonds. Is there any discussion among commissioners?
If I might,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I do want to point out one thing, that these particular bonds are taxable, but because they are for the airport, they'll be paying off temporary notes that we have used to construct the project, and but because airports are handled differently, these bonds are actually taxable, which is a little different than, well, it's definitely different than what we normally do. But I did want to make that point of clarification.
And the funds to actually pay off the this particular issuance is derived from where?
Property tax.
Okay. And is any of it derived from the rent of T-hangars?
It can be, yes, and we are collecting rent from the T-hangars. The last I knew, and I may be speaking out of turn, we had the T-hangars full.
Okay, so, all right, good, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Byrd? We will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. On to item 18 in the agenda.
Request for approval of 2017 Franklin County Development Council City-County Funding Agreement.
This agreement is outlining the economic development services from January 1, 2017 to December 31st, 2017. Mr. Altman, will you be addressing the commission regarding this topic?
Yes. This is the typical agreement that has been in place the last few years. There's been no changes to the contract other than just the change to reflect the dates and the amount. As you know, this is something that goes before both the City Commission and the County Commission, and it was at the County Commissioners this morning. They've moved forward with it, and now it's before you guys this evening.
City Manager Neinstead?
And I might just for transparency purposes for the commission and citizens, this normally is done before January 1st gets here. And for whatever reason, and I apologize because we should have caught it, for whatever reason, we did not get this done before January 1st. So that's why you are doing it now, and it is retroactive to January 1st.
Commissioners, any additional questions for Mr. Oldman or for our City Manager Neinstead?
We do pay this out monthly, is that correct?
No, I think the Director of Finance gives them a monthly stipend.
Oh, it is, okay.
And is this the same amount as previous year, or is this an increase? Or
It's a slight
It is a slight increase over 2016.
Okay.
And it is the same amount that the county allocates. For a number of years, we've tried to stay on the same page.
Commissioners, any additional questions regarding this funding agreement? Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve the 2017 FCDC funding agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2017 Franklin County Development Council City-County Funding Agreement. Any discussion among commissioners? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. That moves us on to item 19 on the agenda.
Request for approval of 2017 Street Improvement Rehabilitation Plan.
Plan for maintaining and improving street conditions in the city, and this item includes the plan for maintaining and improving street conditions in the city and the proposed list of streets targeted for rehab in 2017 through 2021. And I just have to say, this is probably one of my most favorite times when we hear about what we're going to do to improve our city. I always love to hear about the improvements in our city, and I think our citizens visually notice it, so it is good.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Scott?
Mr. Hafley, what do you have to tell us today?
Well, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, street maintenance is one of the most important things we can do for our infrastructure. If we don't maintain them, they fall apart. And then we're back to nothing but gravel streets. The last few years since I've been here, we've pretty much put a concentration on trying to eliminate gravel streets by using a chip seal process, which is one of the least expensive ways of trying to eliminate dust in the city. With that, the last couple of years, this year, if you'll notice by the spreadsheet that I put in your packet, we're kind of going back to some of those streets that we've done the last couple of years just to put another layer on, because a chip seal process is really only a layer of asphalt about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe 1/4. So so that we don't lose anything that we've done, we need to go back and do a little bit more maintenance to those, as well as I've also got some gravel streets on here that we'll keep moving forward in trying to eliminate those gravel streets. This year I budgeted a little over right at $230,000 for street maintenance. The plan that you have before you for this year is going to cost about $186,582. That's well below what I had budgeted. However, we've also, out of that pool of funds, we also do some other maintenance, such as right now we've got a project going on up on North Cherry to replace some concrete that is deteriorating very badly. It had huge gaps in the concrete, not gaps, but but offsets in the concrete that were causing people to just get jarred all over the street. So we're trying to fix those. We've also got some curb repairs that we're going to be doing out of that same pool of funding. Along with the gravel streets and the chip seal and the parking lots that we're going to do, that $186,000 also includes dust control on the rest of the gravel streets. So, subject to your questions.
Mr. Havely, does your plan, because we have a proposed list for 2017 to 2021, and I know that is literally a proposed list.
Right.
However, in that list, when we reach 2021, should we have eliminated gravel streets?
Actually, if I can get back here into my notes, because I can't remember anything, I believe we should be out of gravel streets, if I've hit everything correctly, in next year. Provided
Right.
we have no major breakdowns in other streets. This list is subject to change, provided other streets don't deteriorate.
So our hope is before 2020.
Yes, very much.
So if I may, I would expand that a little so everybody understands. Anything beyond this year is the best plan we've been able to put together, predicated upon all the factors remaining the same in the outlying years as they do this year. But if there is a major change in any of those, it may very well affect that list of streets.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner.
I think Commissioner Reed will remember that we had an engineering study done on every street in the community, and this has been 8 years ago, Richard, or since you've been aboard.
It's been under 10.
Less than 10. Okay.
Nice. I didn't know.
But at that time, we identified each of the streets. Each street was graded and or on a factor of like we'll say it's like A to F, and then was talked about to bring each of the streets up to a condition that was acceptable. And at the time, that engineering firm told us that it was going to cost over $10 million in order to do that, which is a huge chunk of change. And but the committee, the commission elected at that time to eliminate gravel streets in the community and have a plan put in place in order to do so. And I'm proud to see that the end is in sight to get rid of the gravel streets. Not that the other streets don't need attention. We have several streets that do need attention, and it's a methodical process in order to bring these up. When we first, Commissioner Reed and I first were on the commission, there was not a lot of money spent for maintaining streets, and you can see the condition of the streets going down. And streets are one of the most obvious things that our citizens will notice, and it's been hard work of city staff and the finance department to find a way of doing this, and the direction of the city manager and the public works director in getting this done. And so I really congratulate the work that our city staff has done on this project.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
So, two more things I'd like to piggyback on.
You know, we take these off your report time, right? Just making sure that you know that.
Okay. About the study, what one should remember, what our citizens should know, is that came out of a visit that you make annually to Washington, D.C. There was federal funding that helped in that original study. And the other thing that we should remember, and we had that updated once, is that the consultants we had for that study said your best money is to put into maintenance. And that's what we've been trying to do along with the gravel streets. That doesn't mean that we don't address the other streets, but some of those are some pretty major situations that we have to addressed. Now, I would also tell you that it's no different in any other community. You go up to Lawrence, you go in the older part of the community, and you can see the same type of streets and curb and gutter that we have. We build those. I mean, some of those streets are 100 years old that we have in town. We build those, and then we have maintenance challenges with them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, either Mr. Hafley or City Manager Nystad, but if an individual is listening to this meeting and they are truly interested in our street plan, that pavement management plan is something that we have available for citizens to review if they'd like.
Absolutely, Mayor, absolutely. It's not a secret document. I'll share it with anybody that wants to see it.
It's actually pretty interesting reading. I actually read it. It's good. Is there, I will entertain a motion if there's a motion to approve the street improvement rehabilitation plan.
Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion on item number 19 to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2017 street improvement rehabilitation plan. Any discussion among commissioners? Will this list be available to individuals in what? How would an individual know if their street or a street that they're concerned about is looking to be on the list for this year?
They can call the Public Works office here at City Hall, and we can get that to them, email it out to them. I will also check and see if there's a possibility we can get it on the city's website.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Any other questions? We will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayla?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. That moves us. Thank you, Mr. Hafley. We appreciate it. That moves us on to item 20 on the agenda.
Request for approval to rezone properties on Montana Road and Kingman Road.
This request is to rezone properties located at 2542, 2580, 2620, 2660, 2690, 2710 Montana Road, and 2655 Kingman Road. And Mrs. Lee, who is a much better substitute for Mr. Finch tonight, thank you, is going to explain to us this request.
But I must note, we do miss him. So, thank you, Mayor. The list of properties that was just read off isn't something that most people are just going to know off the top of their heads, but that is the properties that currently comprise of the proposed new industrial park. And that's their current addresses, and we are in the midst of, as you know, and as most of the community knows, developing. The infrastructure plans are complete at this point, but there's still a number of steps to go, including platting, which will enable us to create new addresses, and we won't use that long laundry list of addresses. There are two zoning proposals in this ordinance. One is to have a small parcel at the very northeast corner, right at the intersection of I-35, the Montana Bridge, and at that southwest corner of that highway connection. You can't get on and off there, but if you were looking at it from above, that very small corner is proposed to be rezoned into public. That is because we anticipate throughout the development of the park, not initially, but over time, for there to be a water tower at that location as well as a substation. The remainder of the park, which really is about 95% or maybe even 98% of the land, would be zoned heavy industrial. That's the most flexible of the industrial classifications that we would have. It doesn't mean that it's all, we used to call, as we just heard the other day, someone used the term clean industrial versus, I guess, dirty, but it certainly allows for all the manufacturing and outdoor storage and those kinds of things. By the time we're done with this park, there may be some standards in place so that we're all comfortable with the look of the new industrial park, but it does allow us to have flexibility relative to the the ultimate users, folks that construct buildings there. We held a public hearing on that. There were people in attendance. One asked some questions about the development of the plans and the need for right-of-way. And the other comment was a compliment to the city and county and staff, as well as FCDC and all those involved for developing the proposed park, and they were in favor of the rezones. The Planning Commission recommends the rezones to you on a 6-0 vote, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you like.
Were these once building sites, the reason the specific addresses like this?
No, they were actually all held as different parcels, and so when they were acquired by the city, they were different pieces of farm ground. There is one remaining residential structure, but at one time there was at least one other in those pieces of ground.
Okay.
They'll be platted and developed so that they'll be ready for sale, but currently that's still their legal addresses.
Any other questions for Mrs. Lee? If not, I will entertain a motion if there is one.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move that we approve to rezone the properties listed in item 20.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve to rezone the properties on Montana and Kingman Road as listed in item 20 in the agenda. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us on to item 21 on the agenda. Mrs. Lee is going to address it.
Request for approval to amend Article 16, Public Use District of the city's zoning regulations.
The Planning Commission recommends by a vote of 6-0 in approval of these amendments. Mrs. Lee?
The public use district was created initially in 2004 when we readopted a new set of zoning regulations, and has largely remained intact with no changes since that time. Last year there was an occasion for a user that was currently zoned public to propose a new project, and when we were looking at that as staff, we discovered that that particular property wasn't able to do what they were proposing to do because they weren't owned by a city, county, or state agency. It was a private group, even though it was for the public broadly. So at the time, we had to look at a different zoning district, but it was agreed with the staff and the Planning Commission that we would need to make some revisions to this article. And those revisions have now been made. And basically, it creates the district to be called public and institutional. This would include uses including the animal shelter, armory, athletic complexes, hospitals, schools, including private schools, recreation, the fairgrounds, courthouse, etc. Several of those uses aren't currently, that were in that classification, weren't owned by a city, county, or state. And so where necessary, we inserted the word private, and in other places we put institutional in order for this district to have the breadth that I believe it was originally intended to have. It just wasn't, when we specifically looked at parcels, it wasn't caught that that was going to create for them, made them a non-conforming, a legal non-conforming use, which wasn't the intent. So that public hearing was held. There were no public comments. The public hearing was actually continued. Well, I take that back. The mayor was there and asked the question. The hearing was continued. The Planning Commission had no further comment, and the recommendation from them is to adopt this and make these changes.
Commissioners, is there any questions that you have of Mrs. Lee?
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner?
I move to approve the amendment as described in item 21 of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve to amend Article 16, the Public Use District of the city's zoning regulations. Is there any questions or any comments among commissioners? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes, motion carries. That moves us on to item 22 on the agenda.
City Commission reorganization, nominations for mayor for the April 2017 to January 2018 term.
I may want to note that this is a shorter term because the Kansas legislature has made some changes in when local elected officials will be elected, and that is changing so that our commissioners will now be, city commissioners will now be elected in November, not during presidential election years, during the other years, or the off years. So at this time, we're doing kind of a different term. It's a shortened term. Is there any discussion? I don't know how we're going to.
I don't have any discussion, but Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion that we appoint Sarah Kaler as our mayor for this term mentioned in item 22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Sarah Kaler be nominated for mayor for the term of April 2017 to January 2018 term. Is there any discussion among commissioners? If not, we'll proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Mayor Kaler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Next is item on the agenda.
Mayor's oath of office.
I think that's me. Who gives that? Oh, you do. It's Amy's first time. Awesome.
No. Get back under there. Oh, it's pretty exciting. Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sarah Kaler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
and faithfully discharge the duties of mayor
of the City of Ottawa, Kansas.
of the City of Ottawa, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you. Shake my hand. Shake my hand. Shake my hand. Yes. All right, thank you. Great. All right. That moves us on to comments by the newly appointed mayor, which, look at that, he didn't move seats. That's awesome. I really don't have prepared comments. However, what I do want to say is that I noticed that in this audience tonight are so many individuals and organizations that have had so much to do in who I am and what I stand for. And I really think what Ottawa stands for. My parents are here, and I always appreciate all the guidance that they have given me through all the years and the support. I appreciate my grandparents who are now gone. They certainly raised two fine individuals who therein raised 5 lovely Kane children, and I'm so proud to be one of them. But within that, I was a Girl Scout growing up, and Girl Scouts made a huge difference in my life. And I've said it time and time again, my very best friend was in my Girl Scout troop. It still is my very best friend. And I never take for granted one day that I was a Girl Scout, and I'm proud to say I still am. So I'm glad that the Girl Scouts could be here tonight. And then my children, I think about, and actually one is missing. I don't know where she went, but she's here. My children, when I initially took office as a commissioner, my youngest child wasn't even in school, and she is getting ready to go to middle school next year, which is scary to me because she has her own phone now, and I don't even think knew how to dial a phone when I took my appointment as a commissioner. So I am so very blessed. And I hope that I do right by every single citizen of Ottawa every single day, and that is absolutely my hope. And I always encourage you, as I do every single meeting, to reach out and be a part of the process. I think that the City of Ottawa is only stronger when everyone participates. So thank you. That moves us on to the next item on the agenda.
City Commission reorganization nominations for Mayor Pro Tem for the April 2017 to January 2018 term.
Commissioners and audience, this goes right in line with what we had talked about just previously, that we have a shortened term because we will be having elections in November, and then a new term will begin January 18th. We are looking for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem from the commissioners that are set at this table. Is there a nomination to be had?
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner.
I would move that we appoint Commissioner Skidmore as Mayor Pro Tem for the April 2017 through January 2018 term.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we nominate Commissioner Mike Skidmore as Mayor Pro Tem for the term of 2017, or pardon me, April 2017 to January 2018. Is there any discussion? If not, we will proceed to vote.
How do you vote, Commissioner Graves?
Yes.
Commissioner Jorgensen?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Mayor Kayler?
And I vote yes. Motion carries.
Choked up over that.
Were you hesitant there? I believe that moves us on to the Mayor Pro Tem oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mike Skidmore,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge my duties of Mayor Pro Tem
and faithfully discharge my duties as Mayor Pro Tem
of the City of Ottawa, Kansas.
of the City of Ottawa, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I believe that moves us on to comments by the newly appointed Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I don't have a lot to say either. I just really appreciate working with this commission. I know there's been stories about commissions around the state that are having trouble getting along, and I appreciate the fact that we can get along. You notice tonight we pretty much all voted in line, but I just like to say that there's a freedom here to vote against the majority, and I felt very comfortable doing that on occasion, and I appreciate the respect everybody has in this room. I mean, if we all agree on everything, 4 of us would be unnecessary, so I kind of feel it's a good thing we do have our own opinions. We look at a worldview a little bit differently, but that's what we're elected to do and represent our community. So it's been an honor to serve. I'm looking forward to this term of Pro Tem and see what we have for this year.
Excellent. Thank you. That moves us on to item 28 in our agenda, which is report by our city manager.
So, congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate the mayor's parents being here and the mayor's children. And what I really appreciate about that is that it is 2 different generations with a lot of generations in between. And that's what we're building this community for, is for all generations. I think the other thing is that I think oftentimes we forget, think about this transfer of power, right? I didn't see anybody pulling any hardware on anyone or having a fist fight or somebody having their armored personnel carriers roll up to the door of City Hall. And I think that while that may be made in light, in many parts of the world, that's how the transfer of power takes place. But we respect the rule of law, right? And we respect the transfer of power that's respectful to our citizens and that we've operated on with this Constitution for well over 200 years. So thank you for continuing that. The other thing is, I have 3 more things, just to let you know. My executive assistant, Laura Matthews, is undergoing surgery tomorrow for a knee replacement. So please keep her in your thoughts and prayers as she goes through that. This has been a struggle for her, so we will recognize her when she comes back in 4 to 6 weeks. So I may be coming out to see you a lot more. There's nobody out there for me to talk to, in the office. Anyway, a couple of other milestones you might want to know if you felt calmer today. This was the International Day of Calm. Okay? And 100 years ago, tomorrow, the United States Congress issued a declaration of war, and our entry into World War I was assured. Now, to tell you how these things get linked with generations, the sons of many of those World War I veterans also fought in World War II. And many of those people were our fathers and our grandfathers and our uncles who did that. My great-grandfather at 43 was in the medical corps. He volunteered, and he went to Base Camp 16 in France with his two sisters, Sarah and Jessica, who were nurses. And he was actually gassed with chlorine gas, which was the only war that gases was used. And he suffered from those debilitating effects for the next 25 years of his life. But the important thing is that they went over and they served on this mission. So remember that. It's if you're watching public TV, there are a number of excellent programs on there that actually take place at the World War I Memorial in Kansas City. So if you have not had a chance to visit, you should go. So thank you very much, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to reports by our city commissioners. We're going to begin here with Commissioner Graves.
Earlier, I was honored to read the proclamation for the Child Abuse Prevention and Sexual Assault Prevention Month of April, and I figured Jen would probably be pretty mad at me if I didn't mention that we are always looking for volunteers and board members for CASA. So if you're interested, contact Jen and she will get you signed up.
Commissioner Skidmore.
Well, I see we have a letter here from Randy Henderson from the Reno County Sheriff's Department, just thanking us for our participation in the firefight. I just want to congratulate our police department and Franklin County also. I don't know if, Tim, were you involved in that at all, anything? You just the Sheriff's Department, okay. I just had an occasion to drive through Reno County on my way to western Kansas recently on a trip, and I saw some of the effects of this fire, and it's quite shocking to see what happened down there. And I know, Michelle, you had lost family members that lost some farm ground in Clark County, so I'm sorry for that too. So it's just to see that firsthand is very different. I'm sure you have seen it too, and to see it firsthand is very different from the pictures in the paper. But anyway, I just wanted to say I appreciate that we were willing to go, and it's quite a distance to go, but I'm glad we're willing to go because we know the same reciprocating support would happen here if we had the same occasion. That's all I had.
Commissioner Reed.
Well, I just wanted to mention, I thought it was interesting as we did the proclamation about with CASA and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I got a tweet during the meeting from, it's a hashtag It's On Us, and it's the Delta Upsilon fraternity at Kansas State. There's many Ottawa kids that go to K-State. And that fraternity and my son is in have taken on a project to take the stance to change the culture of sexual assault across college campuses. We know in Kansas that's been an issue that's been in the news a lot recently, and so I just want to give a shout out to that fraternity. I think that's pretty cool, and it came at the same time as our meeting, so I thought that was neat. So yeah, and that was all I have this evening.
Great. Commissioner Jorgensen.
Well, the only thing I have this Sunday is, of course, is Palm Sunday, followed by Holy Week, and I just wish everybody a happy Easter. And it's good to see the rains, the showers, and with that, we're seeing tulips and other flowers starting to bloom. So spring is here. I hope it stays here for a while, and enjoy it while we can.
Thank you. And now report by the mayor. I too want to wish everybody a happy Holy Week. I was able to attend today. My daughter was a part of Stations of the Cross at Sacred Heart, and that is always a great walk to go through. And so I appreciate that Sacred Heart that makes that available, and that the students there at Sacred Heart were a part of it. Good job, Amelia. I was proud of you. And then I think on another point of privilege there, my older daughter, who's trying to fall asleep right now, has her very first track meet tomorrow. So I'm very excited to see how she does. Good luck, Ava. We're very excited for you. My children oftentimes, and I know my friends up here understand, my children oftentimes get brought to many public events, and I don't always call them out or tell them how much I appreciate them, but I do as mayor appreciate you, but I appreciate more as your mom, and it's my number one job is to be your mom. I might also say that I did get into public service because I really wanted to see, for many reasons I get into public service, but one of them was to see our parks get better, and we have made great strides in improving our parks, and we are currently have an initiative going on in which you can donate the old shoes. So while you're spring cleaning your house, you can donate your old shoes to the City of Ottawa, and we will be cashing those in with a organization that helps lesser individuals. They pay us per the pound for shoes, and we're accepting those through Monday. And so please flood City Hall with your old shoes. They do pay per pound, so those that might have a steel-toed shoe here or there, we will take all of your boots and steel-toe shoes, or any other shoes, through Monday. And at ORC. So if you can't get to City Hall, get them to ORC. Last thing I want to do is I do want to throw out a complete and utter awe to our Director of Finance. You do a fabulous job in keeping us in line, and I appreciate it. I don't know if I say it enough, but we are blessed, and every citizen should know how blessed we are to have somebody who is so on top of our budget, but it is reflected when we go out into the open market and we have general bonds that come back at such a competitive bid. So thank you. I appreciate it. That moves us on to announcements, which April 10th, we have a study session, which we do every Monday at 4 p.m. at City Hall. Public is always welcome to come along and be a part of that process. The 10th and 11th, which is Monday evening and Tuesday evening, we have our special call retreat with John Devine from 5 to 7 here at City Hall. And then on the 19th of April, just 2 days after my mother's birthday, it is our regular City Commission meeting at 9:30 in the morning at City Hall. If there's nothing else to be brought before the Commission today, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I make the motion we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.